Welcome to Life Esteem, a program committed to delivering information that's important to you and your community. Your hosts are Nathaniel and Patricia Gadsden.
Hello and welcome again to Life Esteem. Always great to have you as a viewer. And today we're going to talk to a brand new author. Real proud of her. She's Terri D, but we're going to find out her real name today. Okay, Terri, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, and by the way, your real name is Terri Washington. For those people who know,
it's Terri D. Washington.
That's right. I was going to say that D is the middle name, so you stopped at Terri D. But you have a brand new book out. What's the name of your book?
The name of my book is Yesterday's Lies. It's coming out officially in March of this year. It's available now as an ebook. You can download it on Amazon.com.
So, now, your mom over here, by the way, this is Patricia. It happens to be Terri D is the oldest daughter of Patricia.
Yes.
And my stepdaughter. And Terri, what made you decide to write this story? Because from everything I'm hearing from Pat and others, it's just a great read.
I started writing a book. I tried to start writing a book about 2 years ago. One of my main characters, Jada, couldn't really get too far with it. I only got a few chapters and then I just wasn't able to finish it. And one night back in the summer of 2010, I just had an idea and I went downstairs and started writing, and it just really flowed. I was able to actually finish it in about 3 or 4 weeks.
You know, and you got real excited because you said something once, we were talking, you said you thought the writing was going to be the hard part, but...
It wasn't. Well, once I finished it, you know, it was just accomplishment. I finished it. But everything that comes after that, all the work that goes into the editing and the proofing and having everyone looking at your story and questioning you or challenging you, it's a process. It really is.
Well, I know also that when you initially came up with the finish your book, you had a different title.
I did. I had a different title. I had a different vision for what the cover would look like. And it just evolved into something much more wonderful than what I initially thought. It's funny, I think people write differently or approach the process of writing a book differently, but when I started initially, I kind of started with my title and then I wrote the book, but at the end of the day, that title didn't really fit. Or this one is much better, I believe, than what I started with.
And you know, let's give props to a person that you've worked closely with, and so have I.
Absolutely.
And her name is?
Janita Jackson, wonderful woman. She did the cover design for the book, and she's just been amazing. She's been consulting with me along the way with all the different things that I need to do. Working on my promotional materials. She's just been a godsend.
Fantastic, good.
Well, you know the thing, one of the things, of course, I had the most wonderful opportunity to read the book because you were able to get some pre-release copies, over the holidays. And I think the thing that was impressive to me was the development of the characters, but the twists and the turns. How did that come about? What was your visioning and thinking there?
You know, when I sat down, like I said, I had this idea and I started writing the book, and then I had the end in mind, like the final scene. I'm not going to give it away, but the final scene in the book, I knew I wanted that to be my final scene, but what I didn't know is what characters would be there. So it was interesting, as I wrote the book, things would just come to me at different times, and I would think, well, what if I did this, and what if I did this, and it just all kind of came together in the end, and we ended up in that final scene. But I really didn't know who was going to be there, but I knew someone was going to be there.
And your book is going to appeal to what audience? Did you have an audience in mind when you wrote it?
You know, I really didn't target any particular audience. I think that if I had to think about the issues that the book deals with, I mean, relationships between, you know, friends, relationships between men and women, dating. There's so many different topics you could actually talk about with this book. And I did purposely try to make it book club friendly, so that book clubs could use it, and it actually has book club questions, excuse me, in the back. Because I think as you read the book, because of some of the twists and turns, there's some good topics, some good discussion topics at the end. So.
And already you're booked to speak to a few book clubs, is that right?
I am, yes. I have a couple scheduled. The book's not being released until March, so starting those types of activities March into April, I already have some things booked. I do.
Now you said that you actually finished this book in about 3 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
And I would think or feel that that probably is not the average way in regard to maybe most books maybe come together.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
one
know.
of the things I was going to say to you is, but as you walked with the story, I mean, you had something in mind, but the story began to develop as you began to write. Is that right?
Yeah, I started off, I had an idea about how the book started. I had this idea about these two friends and their interaction with one another. As I developed the book, I mean, I didn't have an outline. I didn't sit down with an outline. I just sat down with that beginning chapter or two. And then things would just come to me. I mean, I would always, you know, you go back and you reread what you've already written, and then something else would pop into my head. Well, what if I did this? What if I did this? And then trying to make the characters alive, really trying to make them believable, really trying to, I wanted it to be a book that people could pick up and not want to put down because it captured them that way. But I also wanted it to be a book that people could identify and relate to the characters. You know, it's fiction, but it needs to be believable.
Yeah, it's a good point, very good point, yeah. And that's what you kind of said when you read the book, right?
Yeah, I mean, you really just got right into the characters, and you can see people being in some type of scenario of some of the things that have been presented in that way. One of the other things, too, and I know you had shared this before, is that if you had to do it over again, you probably would start with an outline.
Yeah, I think it would make the editing process a little better, because if you just sit down and you don't have an outline in mind and you just start writing, that's good, you can get things to flow.
Sure.
But in the editing process, you may find you have to remember, well, where was this character supposed to be born, and things that you mention about the characters as you're trying to develop them. If you don't jot those things down or have an outline, you might forget, and then you might have somebody, you know, at the beginning of the story they were from Baltimore, and at the end they were from, you know, New York, because you get confused or you forget.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's just important to try to keep track of some of those key things so that you don't, you know, get out of sync with your characters and what you're trying to do with them.
Fantastic. I heard it said that a lot of times a writer will walk with the story, or it's just an idea. It doesn't have to just be a story, but you kind of walk with it for a while, and and then all of a sudden it just kind of, because you said it just rushed out of you that first night. You wrote for how long?
Oh, I probably wrote for 5 or 6 hours the first night. Again, I had an idea and I just kind of went with it, but you're constantly going back and, you know, rereading it. Well, no, I don't want to do that, and you're editing as you go along. But I don't know that that's typical. I mean, I know I've heard people take, you know, years to write a book. For me, part of the reason why I was able to complete it, I was actually not working at the time. I was off on leave, so I could work day or night, or I could stay up all night and write and then sleep all day. Once I got back to work, it was a little slower because, you know, I worked all day and then, you know, had to come home and work on it some more.
We had a chance to participate in a nice conference. It was called Finding Your Dreams Through New Minds. Jonathan Zaki Queen, who's a very fine author. And we had a panel there, and Terri was on the panel along with my brother, myself, and some others. And one lady from Muhammad out of
Mildred Muhammad,
Mildred Muhammad, who wrote a fantastic book called
Scared Silent.
Scared Silent, about the DC sniper who was her husband, in fact, and was trying to kill her. But she made a comment also. She said that, you know, she wrote like 10 pages a day. She said, if you just do that for 30 days, I mean, you got a book right there, she said, and it was pretty much that simple. My brother also sort of echoed that. So I guess, you know, when you think about that process, and like you said, now you're going back to work and all that stuff, could you do 10 pages a day? I mean, is that realistic for you, or how does it work?
I don't know for me, because for me, the writing process was therapeutic. I mean, I think I really got into my characters and I really felt them. So there were days when I wrote 10 hours a day, and there were days where I wrote nothing. I just, you know, for me, it's coming from in here. So if I didn't have anything to express that day, nothing.
So did you draw off of experiences, conversations? What did you draw from? The source of inspiration.
Yeah, a lot of people want to know, am I in the book? And what I'll say to that is, I think people that know me, as they read the book and the different characters, you might find little pieces of me in each one of them, because I really did try to put myself into the book. But is it a real life scenario? No, it really isn't. I tried to, one of the things I will also mention is I wrote the book from each character's perspective, and so I have male and female characters. So the part where I was trying to portray what a man might think or what a man might say were the most difficult, because obviously I'm not a man.